Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? It's Geoff, Mosher, and Adam Caplan. It is that time of the year. It is June. OTAs are underway. Now, Adam, the Eagles, we have some OTA stuff we're going to go through. The Eagles do it differently than every other NFL team. And I always think back to Nick Sirianni. He's always said, like, you never want to be, he's always talking about statistics. You never want to be like the worst in anything, like you never want to be 32nd out of 32 or whatever it is. But they definitely are the club with the least amount of practices, off-season practices. I think the Bengals and them start the latest and end the earliest, but the Bengals do a mandatory camp. The Eagles do not. Is that's the correct?
Yeah, the only thing is both do it. I don't quite understand this, but the Bengals have 6 practices, 3 mandatory practices, and 3 OTAs. Again, it's their off-season practices. You can't hit. They're different, obviously, than training camp. But the bottom line is, yeah. And then the Browns also, by the way, they end on June 8th as well. So, look, it's hard to argue with the Eagles' success with injuries, and as much as we thought it was kind of crazy to have these few practices, they're so successful. And remember that Sirianni he ran it by the Players Council, and they had that agreement. And here you go. I guess the agreement would be they all have to show up, but they also get offered.
Let me ask you this: do you think we are nearing? I'm not in the next year, not in the next 5 years, but are we near? Before you and I are 6 feet under, which hopefully is several decades away, will there be no OTAs? I always think there'll be an off-season phase activities, but the way we know OTAs, where at least you're getting on the field and doing a practice, do you think that will eventually be extinct?
Well, they've whittled it down so much, because I know where you're going here. So then
you're thinking about it. You didn't automatically just go, no, come on, no, that's crazy.
No, well, no, but this is what I'm thinking as you said this. Let me throw it back at you. Okay, what you're asking me. So what would be the alternative if you don't have some sort of, because before OTAs, you see the players catching passes and doing it without the coaches.
Right.
You could see the Eagles social account last week before the OTA started. Oh, this guy's catching a football. His hat's turned around. They're having fun. I don't know what whoever was showing up to work out on their own. But now that you have the OTAs, okay, the coaches can work with them. But it's funny, in the 11 CBA, this is what the players wanted. And of course the owner said, yes, you want this? Great. You don't want more money? You want this? Okay, we'll give this to you.
Right.
So, so in response to your point or your question, what's the alternative? Like, how are the coaches going to work with? Were they not have it all season and go to training camp? I just don't know what else you can do.
So the league's going to go to 18 games at some point. You know that.
Yes.
I know that.
Yeah. Some people disagree with me when I said that, but it's going to happen. You know it. Well, the players have to agree to that. Keep going.
Right. So one day there will be no preseason games. I believe there will be no preseason games one day. That will essentially make training camp longer. It'll make it like a 6 weeks. And I think the players will argue that is absolutely like baseball in spring training, that you don't need the off-season workouts. Now, the coaches may say, but you need the off-season, unlike baseball, you need these OTAs or some variety of it to really understand the playbook for us to install. We'll get into in this podcast what OTAs are really about, because there are some really important things that do happen here, especially for rookies and new players, right? Okay. But I believe that while the players will say, yes, we do need something like that to help us, more classroom, anything, but we don't need to go out there on the field and do everything that we're doing right now. I think at the end of I think in 2 decades, there will be no off-season football practices the way we see them now.
Honestly, I would agree with that, but here's the problem, though. You're basically saying until late July. Now, again, under your scenario, if there's no off season, so they go from, okay, the Eagles season ended obviously around mid-February because of the Super Bowl, but you're saying you're not getting an off season. We're not going to see you until late July.
No, I don't think. I think it just will be like they'll do classroom, they'll do walkthrough, because walkthrough is really a way for them to say, all right, are you learning? Are you in the right spot from what you're learning? It's not a 100% because you're not moving
Jog through. You can do a jog through.
but you're understanding what the defensive lineman is, what the offensive lineman is, where I'm supposed to be, where I'm not supposed to be, where the ball's supposed to go. You can get all of that mentally from a walkthrough. I believe that that's the future of OTAs, that they will eventually always be walkthroughs.
So Brian Dable on Wednesday was actually talked exactly what you were discussing here.
Mm-hmm.
He was asked about 11-on-11s, and what he said is, look, because the contact rules, you can't 11-on-11. You're not going to get what you want out of it because if you're actually practicing it in OTAs, because you can't really do much.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, what we do is we have walkthroughs with it. Now we could have what I was mentioning a minute ago, speed walkthroughs, which Mike McCarthy, the Cowboys head coach, has had for years, and I think Sirianni's talked about it. He calls it McCarthy calls them jog throughs. Like you go at a brisk pace, but it's you're not really practicing your
right.
It's a walkthrough, but it's sped up.
Right.
Yeah, under that scenario, sure. Because again, if you're whittling it down to 6 practices, I know the coach will say, "Oh, this is tremendous value because the league has done this to us, and this is all we have. Well, we need something."
Mm-hmm.
But the coaches won't have much of a say, unfortunately.
No, they won't. They won't.
They
won't. But I do think eventually that you will even see a way more scaled down version of what you see now. But again, that might be like when you and I are, inside the birds emeritus, 75 years old. We've already passed the throne on to some young reporters like DeCecco and somebody else, and we just kind of pop on like Ray Diddy to give our 50 years of sage wisdom. Do that kind of thing. Speaking of sage wisdom, really had a fun time last podcast and want to thank everybody for reaching out, because Clay Harbor, former Eagles tight end, joined us. It was a little bit different, something we thought that would be cool after we ran into him at the Super Bowl and saw how much work he was putting in as an NFL analyst, and he did a tremendous job. Everything from the Eagles draft to a guy like Dan Arnold, who was a former teammate of his. I thought he gave great insight on that. So if you haven't really seen it yet, you should, just based on what our feedback's been. Look at the YouTube comments. People thought, just like with Quentin Michael and Jason Avant giving a different perspective that we don't always give, Clay Harbor gave a really nice perspective. And after that, we thought, you know what? We need to get Clay more involved, and we're going to try. We're going to see what we can do.
Yeah. Talking to Clay since we saw him in the Super Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
front of the program. And it's funny because someone put on YouTube the same response I had. Because he took, was he the 82 after LJ Smith?
Yes, I think he was.
Right. And I couldn't remember, was he?
Wait, there had to be somebody in between an 82 between LJ and Clay, right? Like a receiver, maybe?
Maybe so. I know Torrey Smith was 82, right? Our friend Torrey.
Yeah, but Torrey was 84, but that came after.
84? Okay. Because Torrey was 82.
Maybe he was 82.
With the Ravens, so. Okay.
Right, but yeah, he came later. Maybe the one, though. That is funny. LJ Smith. I saw that same comment. That's a guy we haven't talked about in forever.
He was 82 to him, yeah.
He was 82. Okay, yeah, you're right.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know who. So maybe somebody knows. I don't remember who after LJ Smith. And LJ obviously was a underachiever, but Clay was so honest about his career. It was really interesting to hear his perspective on why he came from a small school, but he was a 4th round pick, and why he never became who maybe he thought he should have been as a player. And then I forgot. Chip made him a linebacker. I totally forgot that.
Oh man, I totally wait. He said that? That must have just went right over my head.
He said Chip made him a linebacker for a little bit, and then was it a receiver? Because I know he played receiver in college. Started off at where he went to school as a receiver, but then tight end.
Missouri State,
right? But yeah, and Clay is a man about town, man. He's traveling the country and so forth, but he's got strong opinions. And I know it's not like Jaguar fans are listening, but Jaguars are sort of a marquee team now, or getting to be. You have thoughts on the Jaguars, the Bears, because I know he lives part-time in Chicago.
Yeah, he does post-game Bears radio, I believe.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, he's opinionated. It's funny on Twitter. He loves my guy Khalil Herbert. I'm a huge Herbert fan, but unfortunately, there's a lot of competition at running back for the Bears. Yeah. But no, that was great to have him on. That I love having him on. We'll definitely get him down on the road.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. A reminder: Inside the Birds, of course, is presented by our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. It is the exclusive Jersey Shore resort of Inside the Birds. We also had our Players Under the Microscope podcast series. Really enjoyed that. Andrew DeCecco did his own story to kind of go along with our podcast on InsideTheBirds.com. Threw a guy in there that we didn't talk about, but almost was like, God, yeah, I'm right on that. Quez Watkins definitely enters this year, these camps under the microscope. They signed Olamide Zaccheaus. And, there's all this sort of DeAndre Hopkins talk going on right now, but certainly Quez entering the last year of his rookie deal. And man, did that fly by quickly. After the year he had last year, which was, yes, you can argue the touches weren't there because of what they added, but there were a lot of disappointing moments and some losses that you'd definitely say, well, if Quez could have done this or that better, then maybe they don't lose those games, including the Super Bowl. So obviously he does enter this offseason under the microscope. We didn't mention that, but I kind of looked back on that and thought, wow, that sort of sticks out like a sore thumb.
He is. There's no question that Quez Watkins, now he's got competition obviously with Zaccheaus, and I'm fully expecting Zaccheaus to beat him out. Now, whatever that means, the fact, and we'll get into this in a couple minutes here when we start looking at what the focus will be on these OTAs, which obviously started this week. The short-term OTAs, basic 6 practices. But yeah, that's another one of those battles. Don't underrate these battles, man. These are important battles, starting in OTAs, and we'll kind of explain that. And by the way, loved having Rick Spielman on. We did again for our Patreon subscribers. Talk about an insider's view of OTAs, man. That's why we had Rick on, and amongst other things. And because when I first started covering the league, nobody gave me like an extra, okay, here's what you should look for. I didn't know any better. Mm-hmm. Like when you went to practice in OTAs, because you cover the team from a reporter standpoint day to day. Mm-hmm. Was it 08 when you started? 08, right?
08, 05.
05, okay, 05. Yeah. Oh, that's right. TO's sort of last year with them.
Yeah.
Did anyone kind of help you as a club reporter, so to speak?
People did help me. I sort of observed how other people who I respected went about it. I did ask, it's a tough industry, right? You want to ask for help, but you also understand if someone's not trying to tell you what their secret sauce is either.
Sure. So, no, I totally get that. But
yeah, it's not like a guy flips burgers at Burger King and a guy flips burgers at McDonald's. They don't care, right? They're just it's like the same job, different place. Guys who are competing against each other.
I asked Jake Laser, who I'd known for a while, and he kind of gave me some help. But yeah, it's kind of like with OTAs, and we're going to get into this because there's just some funny stuff that happened where I didn't know any better. I just didn't know what I was looking at, particularly with running backs, which we're going to get into today, amongst kind of the things that we've seen over the years, and how you could be absolutely fooled not understanding, like, running backs at OTAs, if they don't do well, there's something wrong. Clearly something wrong if they don't do well.
Yeah, running backs. And I really learned, it took me a couple of years, Adam, to understand why. Like, I learned early that you can't put a whole lot into what you see in the OTAs, especially in one-on-ones. It took me a little while to really develop a keen eye for why. And I think it really, what year did the Eagles draft Jordan Matthews? Was that 2011?
2011, it sounds right. 2011 or 20. No, 13. Chip's first year.
2013. Okay. I had by then, I think, really understood OTAs are not much to get right home about. But then I was able to see with my eyes as younger reporters were coming up on the beat, the mistakes that I was making when I was their age. So Jordan Matthews lit up OTAs. Why? Because in one-on-ones, right, he could just use, again, the quarterback has all sorts of time. And he's a big-bodied receiver who catches balls who are thrown into that. He had a large catch radius because he was a taller guy. But the one thing I would notice as he was catching pass after pass after pass in OTAs one year is that he struggled against Malcolm Jenkins in one-on-ones, right? Now, Malcolm Jenkins came as a safety. So you do have wide receivers match up with all types of D-backs. And I noticed that he was having trouble shaking Malcolm Jenkins. And my thought was, well, that to me shows that this is a guy that probably is not going to excel on the outside. If you can't shake a safety and you're a wide receiver, you're probably not going to line up on the outside and beat people 20,
Right.
30 yards out. And you could see he doesn't throttle down the same way. He doesn't have the Stephon Diggs like smoothness, but he could catch 1,000,000 passes in OTAs, right? And remember, he was the guy who wore 81. The TO was a few years removed. And I could see young reporters getting so excited about the fact that he was just catching 1,000,000,000 passes in OTAs in a format that was designed for him. But when I noticed that he struggled against Malcolm Jenkins in 101s, that was a clue to me that I thought people were overreacting and not really seeing the forest through the trees on his skill set.
Right. By the way, I'm incorrect. It was 2014 he was drafted.
2014, yeah.
And Avant, remember, was still with them, and he wore 81 until I'm going to look it up. Maybe they changed, or maybe Avant wasn't with the team. In fact, I think
2013 was Avant's last year with the Eagles. Yeah,
he was with them in the offseason. I think they wound up cutting him, and I forget. Did Jason say how that happened?
Well, I know Chip tried to turn him into a cornerback.
Oh, I knew
that
it.
didn't
Wait a
work
minute. Are you joking or are you serious?
No, that's actually serious. Chip tried to make him into a corner. And then Chip also and Jason argued over route running style. Like most receivers we talk to tell you that there's a certain element of freelance involved with the route because as a receiver, you learn different techniques, you study different D-backs, you know what throws them off, you know how to get into their hip and out. So you might round out your route a little bit on a certain route, but Chip always wanted every single route run the exact same way against the exact same, or against whoever the defensive back was. And Jason had reached a point in his career where he thought his wisdom was not being utilized and capitalized. And so they had disagreements. So I don't think they like fought or anything. They just disagreed with it. And that was Jason's kind of sign, along with trying to be a corner, that he was going to be on the out.
Oh, man. And there were, on your point about the route running, there were two players. One never really made it. He was a legend, I think, at New Hampshire. Remember Dave Ball, the tall receiver?
Oh, yeah.
Was out of football 10 years. It was out of football for a while, then Chip brought him in.
Yeah.
And then it was Geoff that didn't deliver the mail.
Geoff Mail, Maehl.
Right. And
Yep.
then was it Brandon Bear? Was that the tall guy?
Yeah, Brandon Bear. He was like a 6'6" D end, you know, 310 type guy. Yeah, he was actually a decent backup D end. Yeah.
Right. It was just funny how Chip had his favorites.
Oh, Chip loved these guys who were either out of football or no, but like Travis Long. Like he wanted so badly everybody to be 6'5" with really long arms. You know, like it's great that if you can get that. Connor Barwin certainly fit the mold and he was a good player, but they're not always good players just because they're tall and long.
Hey, right. Well, just one note. Condolences to Bill McGovern's family, who was speaking linebacker.
Yeah, man, I saw that. Billy McGovern, who was one of the coaches Chip brought in to coach linebackers, who one of the few. Well, I can't say few. Chip brought in some good assistant coaches, but Billy McGovern was a good dude. He was a fun dude. He'll talk football all day long and family guy. I was told. Yeah, I got to know him a little bit, and he was really nice. I was stunned when I saw that. Yeah,
he was a good man. I just talked to people who knew him, and obviously one I think condolences to his family. I believe he passed away to cancer.
Oh, that's terrible.
Terrible. Yeah, at 6 years old, and was with Chip at UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you spoke Barwin. Barwin had one season of 14.5 sacks with him. So yeah,
right. Although Trey Thomas likes to take a lot of that credit too. Remember, Trey was working with the defensive ends that year as like an assistant defensive coach, right? He also had a falling out with Chip. Everybody had a falling out with Chip, but he did work with the edge rushers on their pass from an offensive tackle standpoint. He worked with Barwin and somebody else. So Brandon Graham, right? Because he was an edge rusher, a stand-up rusher in Chip's defense on refining like hand moves and how to attack offensive tackles. So yeah, but definitely RIP to Bill McGovern. And I was really sad to see that. You mentioned talking to Rick Spielman. I think that one of the fascinating things is to talk to GMs about things like OTAs and training camp on how they view it, because we always hear from coaches and players. So Rick Spielman's always great, opens up. So another good reason to be a Patreon subscriber, along with the fact that we did 2 Ask ITB live streams this month. So we just had our latest one a couple of nights ago, and that was fun too. Had a good crowd for that. And if you want to subscribe, it is patreon.com/InsideTheBirds. All right, it's Ocean Casino Resort's 5th birthday this summer. They can't wait to celebrate with you. So join Ocean for exciting promotions and sweepstakes, headline entertainment, the best day life and nightlife lineup in AC, the debut of the birthday bar, exclusive local collabs and partnerships, commemorative 5th birthday merchandise, and so much more. Don't miss stunning fireworks and unique events all summer long. Ocean Rewards members will enjoy over $5 million in gifts and prizes, so be sure to sign up for an Ocean Rewards card to get in on the fun next time you visit. All right, so let's get into OTAs a little bit about what we know and the new structure of them. Now, you mentioned this, Adam, 6 practices, and that was something that the team sort of this goes back a couple of years ago when Nick Sirianni took over. At first, it was more like the new CBA, and then it just became this is how we're going to do it.
Right. From what I understand, they only had 6 last year. It's the agreement with the Players Council. I think that's what they call it, right?
Yes. Well,
Chip,
yeah. I don't know if it's the same thing that the way how it used to be with Doug, but yeah.
right. And I don't know exactly who the players are. Typically, they're veterans, and really, I love when coaches say. I always laugh. They go, "Well, this is our one chance to get our hands on these guys," which is a euphemism for coach these guys.
Right.
They can't touch them. They can't grab them. But although I've seen players being grabbed by coaches over the years, push when they get pissed off, but not punching, but they'll let's go. They give encouragement. But yeah, so it is important. You've mentioned this early in the show. It is because what happens is they're amongst the first teams done on June 8th. And I think they have like a bowling night or something like that, maybe on like a Wednesday.
Yeah, I believe,
right?
as for what I knew, Wednesday was the bowling day.
Right.
So is it 6 practices plus a bowling day, or is it 5 in a bowling day?
I think I don't know why I know this, but I looked it up because I want to know what I was going. I think next week is Monday, Tuesday, bowling Wednesday, or something Wednesday. And then Thursday's the last practice, and they're off they're off until late July. We don't know the dates yet.
Wait, you're telling me there's 1 bowling day per camp?
Well, let's put it this way. I don't know what they're doing on next. I just know one of the days that they're not practicing. I don't know if they're going to see a movie. I know Belichick one time or had the players go to the movie. This is for training camp though. Sometimes they give these guys off.
Yeah.
But man, why? Maybe there's some. Is the rule you can't practice 3 days, more than 3 days in a row?
I think that is the rule now.
Yeah, I know there's just some weird, quirky rule.
Yeah.
But anyway, so to move this along here, look, they're valuable coaches because it's the new players, the rookies, the UDFAs, the Bill Polian, remember telling us this? It's super important that they get to see where these players are in the playbook. And because you can't hit at all, it can't be physical at all. Okay. How's your footwork? Offensive linemen are using the hand placement correctly. Defensive linemen, don't take that false step. Are you making the right move?
Right.
And cornerbacks, okay, what's the technique that you use? So this stuff's important, and they go to the practice tape afterwards. But and we're going to get into who's fooled me and fooled you over the years, and it's because we can't offensive linemen. As someone at scouting told me earlier this week, he goes, look. Because I asked this guy, I said, what do you look for? Give me a bird's eye view. He goes, I'm looking to see 2 things. Are they in shape? Because we don't see them for a while, especially guys 3rd, 4th, and 5th year. Guys who are like mid-round picks who have had some success making our team, do they start resting on their laurels? And then for the younger kids, how they pick up the playbook. Do they know what they're doing? They're going to swim uphill, so to speak. But how much are they swimming uphill? Do they not know anything? Are they totally lost, or are they semi-lost?
Right. I mean, this is clearly a time that's less important for veterans or guys who have been on a team, guys who are sort of Pro Bowl caliber players. Their technique is good. They don't need much refinement. You compare like Jason Kelce is not going to learn anything about the playbook or about his technique this month. Tyler Steen, though, the rookie picked in the 3rd round, who's making a transition from tackle to have never playing guard before and trying to compete at right guard. Well, this is everything for him as far as positioning, handwork, that comfort of lining up on the right side. And again, that's another thing that just even lining up a little bit, you start to understand more. You don't even have to start hitting to really get that feeling of, well, here's where I'm lined up. Here's my other hand's now in the dirt. Here's what my stance feels like as you're working with Geoff Stoutland on that, as opposed to any other lineman who's been doing it for 3 to 5 years or more.
So I asked Bill Polian this. I don't know if it was during time at ESPN or on our show over the years. Was there ever a time when you got to OTAs that you're like, oh my goodness, either it was really good or like, uh-oh, we might have missed on this? He said that either he couldn't remember or he didn't want to embarrass the player. He said there was one time where the player was not what they thought on tape in OTAs. Now, he didn't say what round. So in your time over the years covering the team, going back to 05, were there players that you heard a lot about, maybe from a personal source, or maybe you watched game in college tape or college TV, whatever the heck, whatever it may be, wherever someone told you, you had your own intel. Well, you couldn't wait to see the guy because you hear about I was anxious to see certain players, and then the guy's totally not what I thought from a negative standpoint. Or were you fooled? I got bamboozled on a couple of running backs over the years. Some will laugh at one in particular because I think a lot of us did. But anyone, positive or negative, like the guy was better than you thought. Anyone come to mind?
Yeah, early in Andy's career, there was always this thing about signing these backup tight ends and playing more 12 personnel, and all these guys are going to come in and light up the world, and you're going to see all these two tight end packages. And I remember when Andy signed Matt Schobel, right, the tight end, and that was supposed to be, because remember at that time I think Selleck was in a year or two of his career, year 2, year 3. It's not like he was an 8-year vet at that point and established. They bring him in, and everyone's sort of thinking Schobel is going to be that guy, and it was pretty clear from the start he was just okay. Like it was. I never saw anything like explosive to his game. I never saw anything that made me think that he was going to be make the coaches think that they're going to go heavy 12 personnel. In fact, if you could also throw in Stacey Andrews there, I mean, everybody knows this by now, but like that, and it's tougher with linemen. But you watch the one-on-ones, and I'm watching, and they were treating him with kid gloves because he was coming off the ACL. But man, it was like you were just waiting for one good thing to see out of Stacey Andrews, and it just never happened.
Andy, on that, what you just said, Andy was grilled, and if you study Andy, when he goes out of his way to make an excuse for a player, it's probably not going to end well.
Yes,
he made every excuse, and I get it. Like, this was a free agent signing. They didn't want to admit it, but we know for a fact that part of it was because to have his brother there, to help Sean.
Yeah.
Just to get the brothers together, maybe it'll motivate Sean. They could figure out why Sean was not, like, when Sean was healthy, he was incredible, but they couldn't understand why they couldn't get Sean to play at the level that they thought he should have been every year. And Stacey Andrews did nothing. How long was he? Do you remember how long he was with the team? It wasn't very long.
1 year. That's it.
That's it. Jeez.
Yeah.
What
he couldn't. He couldn't. I'm not even sure if he played after the Eagle. Maybe he did. I don't know. But he just. Yeah. He could not get, and Andy, as you just said, was very, very like calculated in how he would couch he kept sort of directly referring to the ability to, I guess, the post leg and plant it, and how he's just struggling with that, but he'll get there, and he just never got there. Not once.
So now again, they didn't have OTAs. It's a lockout in 2011, and this will be more for a training camp discussion. How you hear stuff about Nnamdi Asomugha. And we didn't really know with Juan Castillo. Look, it obviously was a mistake, and Juan didn't know how to use him. But the hype on him was so over the top. Remember the Sports Illustrated picture of him getting fitted for a helmet, and the hype of the so-called Dream Team. But there are also other players who come in free agency. You're excited because maybe you're a baseball guy. In MLB, sometimes it definitely works. Like, it seems to be better than NFL free agency. But guys come in sometimes, and I think sometimes our expectations are a little bit higher than really how good the player is. And this has happened. Like Asante Samuel, I remember when they signed him, man, I was like, wow, he was good. He was definitely a good player for them. Now, was he as good as maybe the hype? Different story.
Debatable, yeah.
Right, but he was good. That was a good signing. But OTAs, man, especially for the draftees, I'm gonna put one out there right now. There was a running back. I have to look it up. 07, 08. That's why I asked you. The hype on this guy because he's super explosive.
Was it Lorenzo Booker?
No,
Oh. Because that one I was going to bring up as a guy who looked like he was going to be like a 5-time Pro Bowl running back.
Right. Well, you and I have talked about over the years. You're close. Now, was Booker drafted by them?
No, he was drafted by the Vikings, I want to say. And then, no, I thought he was a Dolphin. I thought he played at University of Miami, or was he a Florida State kid? Either way, it was either. Yeah, you're right. It's either the Dolphins or the Vikings.
This guy was drafted by the Eagles, and I was so psyched because I had information. The guy's super explosive, nice kid. He just could not process.
Ryan Moats?
You got it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I was right. Booker was drafted by the Dolphins. He was only there 1 year. I don't know if he was a third-round pick. How did they cut him after 1 year?
Yeah.
No, he was traded.
But it was for it was a throwaway pick. I think the Eagles gave up for a 5th.
But Moats was so explosive. He's out of Louisiana Tech, if I believe, without looking it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so excited because I knew a lot about him. Like, oh, this is great. This guy's explosive. Be a compliment to B. West is winding down his career. Maybe B. West, next time we have him on, we'll ask him what he thought of him. Maybe if he had the same information, he was kind of not to take his job, but we knew Brian was up there and just with the knees and stuff.
Yeah.
This is 08. And I think it was 08. And Moats he just didn't get it. And I remember talking to someone in the front office, like, look, we're trying everything with him. Nice kid, but he just can't get it. He looks so explosive, one cut and getting downhill. And OTAs, because you can't touch a running back. I learned my lesson. Don't overrate OTAs for running backs. They all should do well.
Yes. Yeah, they really should. There's no excuse for a running back to have a bad OTA.
Right?
Especially the lack of physicality. I mean, they don't even have to take
exactly. You literally can't even breathe on it. or the NFLPA will call a whistle on it. Yeah.
Right. Like you can't hit a quarterback, but a quarterback still has to make a throw.
Yeah.
And if he's a little jittery or not inaccurate, it's going to stand out there. But for a running back, you literally just have to run through a lane. Ryan Moats really did struggle. The thing about that era of Eagles football, it's sort of late Andy Reid era, is that they really did try to find these diamonds in the rough from small schools. They overdrafted a bunch of them, whether it was Moats or Brian Thomas from
Brian Smith.
Brian Smith from begins with an F.
Memphis?
Where is it?
I can't. Was it Memphis?
Frisman? No, it was like
no. Was Brian Smith Memphis or no?
I don't think it was Memphis. I think it was something state in Texas that
Oh, it was.
I thought it began.
Oh, McNeese State, sure.
McNeese. Yes, that's right. Yeah, like an F with an F. McNeese. But yeah, small school. Chris Gokong from Cal Poly St. Louis Obispo. We're gonna make him into a linebacker, and he played for like a year, but he was a year and a half. But they eventually benched him too, and Moses Foku and all the corners, Curtis Marsh. They tried year after year after year to find these guys from the small schools and draft them high, 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round.
Curtis Marsh. So it's okay. Here's an OTA story. So I run into someone from the front office coming off the field. Said, "Oh wow, he looks really athletic." He goes, "What are you talking about? He's stiff as hell." I'm like, "What?" I was like, I said he could get up. He goes, "Dude, he's stiff." The guy goes, "We're probably gonna miss this one." I'm like, "You know this already?" He goes, the guy said that he knew that they kind of overdrafted him. This is what, 08, somewhere around there. I don't know.
Yeah, right in that.
But he had length, and they were going with traits on that one. The traits didn't match up the tape. The tape was stiff.
Right.
And I saw him moving around. I was like, I'm not watching the practice tape. So I learned my lesson. Write stuff down that you see. Just put it under your hat. Check on with people. Am I seeing the right stuff? You have better access than we do.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll check back in training camp to see how real it is, because the off-season program is AA, AAA is training camp in the preseason, and majors obviously is the regular season. And that's the thing. We'll get into the Nate Browns of the world and Hank Baskett, who was the training camp superstar, preseason superstar of all time. And because this is what happens, sometimes you don't know what to make of it, because is it real?
Right.
Because when guys light it up and the reporters are there, and you were talking about this earlier, even season reporters like us, Hank Baskett was incredible. What am I supposed to say? Like, the guy was great.
He did make a lot of good contested catches in
Oh,
camp. That's not the easy stuff like that's in one-on-ones where you're just beating a guy. He did make some
yeah.
really good catches. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Nate Brown would drop like he was an OTA superstar, but then would drop everything in training camp.
Oh man, I can't remember who. There was a guy who I remember would drop everything. It was a little after Nate Brown, and I can't remember who it was now.
Yeah.
I'll probably think of it by the end of the podcast, but
Right.
you almost felt sorry for the guy because you knew there was no way he was making it to even training camp. He kept dropping everything. All right, let's talk about a few guys who these OTAs are really important for. Before we do that, we'll pause real quick for a word from great sponsors. All right, we talked about how rookies and newcomers, Adam, are, really need these OTAs. So before we get into rookies, some newcomers that you think will take advantage of this OTAs or really need these OTAs. I think we already mentioned one. Obviously, a guy like Zacchaeus, right, who comes in and has a chance to push Quez Watkins for time more so than like a running back who again has a groundwork laid for him in OTAs. I think receivers can sort of learn this offense and get at least that familiarity of catching passes from the quarterback.
Oh, the timing with Zacchaeus, you're absolutely right. With Zacchaeus and Hurts, and I know we know that the number 2 quarterback job is Mariota, so but that's probably the guy he'll be playing with more. Who he practices with more because Zacchaeus is part of the second team, and the second team quarterback is Mariota. But it's really important for Zacchaeus to learn this offense. It's not Arthur Smith's offense. It's a different offense here in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other ones are Tyler Steen to learn the hand usage. This is a big challenge for him. He's playing a position now he's never played before. And the training camp, yes, it'll be a major battle in training camp. It's arguably the number 1 battle in training camp. But for that right guard job. And then this running back job is, they don't have a starting running back. And the roles that, to me, and I get it. It's OTAs. You can't touch anyone, and they should look good. But getting Penny on the field, seeing what kind of shape he's in. DeAndre Swift, is he healthy? Okay, are we going to see finally the running backs catch the football because they don't really catch the football in this offense for whatever reason?
Right.
So you see that. So yeah, there's some things you could certainly sort of notice here.
I remember when the Eagles signed Darren Sproles. That was in the Chip Kelly era. First. That camp they ran like, not only did they run like a million wheel plays, they ran one after another at one point. I remember saying, oh my god, that's like is that Vic or Foles to Darren 5 straight times in a row.
Wow.
I'm like, this is incredible, because I think the defense was just playing man defense, and obviously they had stand up outside linebackers trying to guard wheels and everything. So it was just literally phoom, phoom, phoom. So it'll be, again, I'm really interested to see how much these running backs get involved, more so DeAndre Swift, in the passing game, because we know that's not really a Rashad Penny thing.
Right.
But OTAs would be another example of how you would think the opportunity for Swift to really stand out over Penny would be great, because Swift can at least catch the ball.
Right. And that, because what we look for when we went to the Sirianni's OTAs in 21 at first OTAs, because it's no longer Doug Peterson's West Coast offense. So what are the changes are going to be? And then when you fast forward to now in 23, okay, new play caller. They're on the 3rd play caller was Nick first, and he handed off to Shane Steichen, and then obviously now Brian Johnson. Okay, well, they're running the same scheme, but how's he going to call it? And it's on your point. Will the backs be featured more? Now, we know part of it is because Wentz was like this, Hurts is like this. Hurts doesn't like checking the ball. He wants to throw the football, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But there are times, dump the ball off.
Yeah.
That's something with Swift. Look, he made a trade for the guy. He's not known. He's fine as a runner, but as a pass catcher, he's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see it.
Yeah. And you know what? Mariota is a name that you mentioned as someone who's going to help, develop a rapport with Zacchaeus on the second team. But even him, this is a big OTA for him. He's learning a new offense. He's got to show that he's healthy, right? He had some kind of shoulder deal at the end of last year, and he wound up leaving the Falcons. I think he also sort of has to repair his image a little bit. I mean, he had a terrible year. It was weird that he sort of left the team after they decided to go with Ritter. So I don't know if there are any questions about his leadership right now, but here he's in a new environment. He doesn't have to be the guy. He just has to learn the offense, make the connections, and then prove that he can be relied on if Jalen Hurts gets injured, because it's happened each of the last 2 years. So it's a
Yep.
big, to me, OTAs are bigger for Mariota now than maybe in the past for him. On defense, there's a lot of guys. I mean, you're talking about a rebuilt up the middle, right? So whether you're talking about Jalen Carter for being a rookie, the 2 linebackers, the 2 safeties, I mean, it's, to me, this has got to be a defensive focused OTAs as far as everybody knowing their roles, and then the new play caller and defensive coordinator, what their expectations are of each other.
Yeah, Jalen Carter. Okay, he's new here. We know about the off the field stuff. Okay, so it's stay on the straight and narrow. Okay, the talent's unquestioned. It's just a matter of, okay, how's the maturity level? Does he get it? He said all the right things, but is he actually doing it?
Mm-hmm.
I know Jordan Davis is in good shape. We've talked about this now for 2 months. Okay, well, what does that really mean? And then Nolan Smith is new. I'm very interested to see where they're going to line him up. That's something I cannot wait to see.
Yep.
Or hear about. And then obviously in training camp. And then at safety, you mentioned it. Okay, Evans is new. Sidney Brown is new. And he's not only is he new, he's a rookie. He's not going to be playing the same defense at Illinois. And then Justin Evans, how's he factor in? And then at corner, it's the back end, and there's definite competition for the 5th and 6th cornerback roles if they keep 6, and or 4, 5, and 6 really. McPherson, Goodrich is back. Eli Ricks, UDFA. Job is back. Makai Garner. These guys are pushing it. And then here's another thing: do they cross train anyone to play safety? Because that's something with some of these guys have some decent size. They're not real fast. Could they be cross trained to play safety?
Yeah. By the way, what we're hearing, and it's very early on Jalen Carter, is that he's been accountable, showing up, been coachable, been good so far, good in the building, is the feedback that we've gotten on Jalen Carter. So just wanted to put that out there. That's obviously going to be, as you mentioned, a big storyline surrounding him throughout all of camp and into the season. So far, and we're really early in the process, all reports are pretty good so far on Jalen Carter. And then obviously the big sort of, and this competition may start now ahead of everybody else.
Oh, it starts.
Yeah, it's started. It's underway.
Yeah.
Tyler Zentner versus Aaron Sipos is underway.
Did Sipos have any competition? Did they have a punter?
No, I don't think they brought anybody. I think we were saying we were kind of surprised they didn't bring anybody in to sort of challenge.
Thought it'd be training camp. They just didn't do it. Of course, Brett Kern, we get why they brought him in. Sipos is hurt. And when Sipos got healthy, they stayed with Kern, and Kern obviously didn't work out. The Zentner kid's a kicker / punter, but he's going to punt here.
Yep.
So that's the #1 training camp battle. And then it's really important because field position is so important now, and they have to be better in that department. As good as the Eagles were last season, you don't just accept that you're not good in one area. That's the defeatist attitude. They got to be better in that area.
Definitely. All right, couple of changes in the scouting department want to get to. First, want to remind everybody to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They are enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. And we'll pause real quick to hear a word from our great friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter makes sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
And if you stop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam just sent you, and you might even get one of those cool Sky Motor Cars jackets that Adam's wearing if you're watching us on YouTube. You are quite the spokesman, my friend. Nice job.
I love it. I love quarter zips. That's kind of
me too. So Brett, if you're listening, Geoff Mosher could use a nice little quarter zip too,
For baseball, the coach of the softball. That'd be perfect for softball, right?
Yes, that would be perfect. Absolutely. All right, couple of changes in the scouting department. There seem to be every year, although last year was like revolutionary, but this year not as much. But the Midwest scout for the Eagles, Jim Ward, who was a well-respected scout, is now he has been pilfered by Andy Weidel.
I'm sure. I think this guy Ward is from Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
He talking to some people know around the league. He's him and Weidel, obviously because I think he might have reported to Andy when Andy overseeing, he's under Howie. I guess he would deal with these guys directly. So he left to what we're told is he's it sounds like a college Midwest scout, same area he had. It's probable that he'll do that. Ben Ajalana, might remember him. He's a former NFL offensive lineman who played at Villanova, I think. Right?
Yes, Villanova.
Okay.
Yeah.
He would join them last year. He is now an East Coast scout. Matt Holland.
That's a pretty quick rise, by the way, to go from just joining the team last year to an area scout.
Yeah,
so.
I know Rod Streeter. Met Rod many years ago when he was with the Raiders as a player.
Yep.
But Matt Holland is now the Midwest scout. He was pro in college, and then his name is Jared Kilburn. Jared Kilburn is now a college and pro scout. So he also worked for NFL Films.
Yes.
Before. And he was okay. I'm sorry. He's in his second year as college and pro scout, but maybe I'm not. Some people are thinking around the league that he might get promoted or something or get something. I don't know. But he also worked for the Raiders. Boy, he's got a lot of experience for being a young guy.
This is Jared you're talking about?
Yeah, Jared Kilburn. Yeah,
Jared Kilburn. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
But the big ones, I mean, if you want to call it big, is Ajalana moves up. Holland is reassigned, but that's a big area, Midwest.
So you have to think that Jim Ward had a pretty good. His reports were pretty integral in Sidney Brown because that's a Midwest guy. Yeah. I'm trying to think, did they get anybody else from the Midwest in this draft? So, and everybody else came from Georgia, right? So
that's funny. And then I think this guy used to be the East Coast scout, and that is Pitt. Is Pitt East? Do they call that?
Yes,
Midwest?
I believe that still falls in the Northeast area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I think here's the guy I believe who got promoted. His name is Cam Bradfield. I've not heard of this term. What is the difference between these? He is now the Mid-Atlantic area scout. I'm not sure.
So that's more Delaware, Maryland, Virginia,
Gotcha.
That area. Because that's not really Southeast. That's Mid-Atlantic, yeah.
So Kilburn is in his second year as college pro scout, and then Bradfield's the guy who got promoted. I don't know what he was doing before that. Those are the ones that we know about. We've been aware for a bit. So look, if you really look at it over the years, so they just lost Ward apparently from talking to people in the league who I don't know, they know he's supposedly really good. So you lose him. You lose, let's see, Brandon Brown is the assistant GM of the Giants.
Yep.
They've Ian Cunningham, of course, Andy
Weidel, and a lot, and Catherine Rach last year also. Andrew Brown a couple of years ago.
Who else?
Andrew Brown from a couple of years. Andrew Berry,
Andrew Berry, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Tom Donahoe.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of really talented people. So remember we said last year, it's going to take a good 3 years to see if you could, we know it's more of an analytical building last couple of years.
Right.
Year after year, but what it actually means, it's going to take a good 3 years to see how much of it is real tape and compared to analytics or both. But look, they've gotten younger. It's changed a lot. Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
All right, listen, next week's podcast, we have a 2-part series that we're going to do. I can't tell everybody what it's going to be because I want nobody to steal this fantastic idea we have, but you guys are going to freaking love it, and you're going to be involved with it. Our listeners are going to get involved. We're going to rely, me versus Adam, and then we're going to let the people decide.
We're not going to give it away what it is, but it is by far, I got to give you credit, of all of our ideas to do shows. Remember when you said, I go, this is like the best thing I've ever heard. You just threw it at me. I'm like, because you weren't sure how I'd react.
Right.
99 times out of 100, you come up with a suggestion. I'm like, hey, let's go with it.
Yeah.
I really say I don't see it, but I was like, this is like the best thing I've ever heard. Maybe I'm overrating it. I don't think so because I can't wait to do this. And as you said, we're not giving this away.
No, you will know when you hear it next week. As for now, that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.